Yay, I think we're live. Yay, sweet. Hey guys, here again to do some studies. So yeah, if you guys have questions, always let me know. But yeah, I'm just gonna do some studies, and hopefully everything works all right. Yeah, now I have a name over my face. I thought it'd be easier to put it down in that corner, but now it looks like there's a name. Oh, but that goes away. Cool. I'll figure out YouTube one of these days. All right. If you want the reference I'm going to use today, there's a link in the description. So yeah. But I'm just going to do some figure studies. Had a lot of fun doing them yesterday on the stream. Got me to actually like work, which is good. I have an easy time putting things like that off. Or distracting myself with stupid stuff. I am doing good. I've had a pretty good day, pretty productive in kind of more boring ways. Like dealing with emails and starting to get a new website set up. So just kind of fun. I enjoy it, but yeah, it is nice to actually do some art. It can be easy for me to get wrapped up in all the other stuff to do with being an artist online and then forget about, the actual art stuff. Well, I suggest you study figures just because I'm studying figures, so everyone else has to suffer too. But I mean, they really are fun. I do love them. They're just quite the challenge. There's so little room for error when you do figures. Everything has to be just right. And then when you do faces, it's just an absolute nightmare. Getting like eyes to line up right is just insanely annoying. I've always had a hard time drawing women. I have a much easier time drawing men. You can make men like all angular and chunky and kind of weird looking, and it's all fine. But you start doing that to women, and it's just looks like terrible drawings. So I have a much harder time with it. But that's why I'm trying to practice it. Noah, did you shave your head again? No, I did not. I actually have hair up here, but just kind of cold today, and like a hat. I was tempted to shave my head the other day, though. I just got annoyed at having hair. I was like, just getting the itch to shave it all off. I kind of miss it. I'll go back to it someday. Do I prefer drawing from photos or reality? In some ways I kind of prefer drawing from photos. This is something I kind of touched on yesterday during the stream, but in a lot of ways I prefer studying from photos more than from life, which I know is not what you're supposed to say, because you're supposed to, you know, be an art purist and love drawing from life, but I have a lot of issues drawing from life, and the like time aspect of it, of not being able to have a flexible amount of time to work from a model is, I don't know, really annoying for me. And yeah, I like the flexibility of photos, where if I want to take, you know, a quick 2-minute gesture drawing and push it into a, you know, 4-hour drawing painting, I can do that. Whereas you go to a life drawing class and you get what you get, which I know has its values, but for me, I think I'm learning better by having access to the photos instead. I think it just works better for me. That said, I do like painting landscapes from life. That's a lot of fun. It's really hard, but there's quite an experience to it. After this study session, do you also draw figures from imagination? I'm not going to show that off yet. I'm going to wait until I'm good at figures from imagination before I do that. Yeah, it's something I do on my own, but yeah, I'm definitely not ready to show that stuff off yet. I am not at all happy with how those figures look. I gotta get way better before I can do that. But my main priority is just doing all these studies. That's what I want to work on right now. I just want to get really good figures, and then I can worry about, you know, doing some stuff for imagination. But I'm not too concerned about that. Like, I can get good reference if I need it, so there's kind of no reason not to. When I show my brush settings, it's just a hard round brush. Like, it's a little bit tweaked to get the pressure sensitivity just right, but it's literally just a hard round brush. I just mess around with it and get all the settings exactly where you like them. Because honestly, I could probably hand this brush to somebody else and they'd be like, it's not that great. But for me, it's what I do for how like I use the tablet, like the pressure ranges that I use, it just works for me. So honestly, I'd kind of suggest just messing around. It's kind of good to learn how to make your own brushes, or at least the rudimentary aspect of it. So that way you can, even if you're just using somebody else's brushes, you can tweak them so that they work for you. studying figures from old masters, how effective is it to having your own images and studying with them? I definitely recommend it. You know, the thing to realize with doing stuff like that, of doing master studies, is that you're learning how they interpret a figure as well, which is really handy. That's one of the great values of master studies, is seeing how somebody interprets forms and anatomy and stylization and all that. And so that can be incredibly valuable. So you can get a different idea of how you might exaggerate a figure that you probably wouldn't do on your own. So yeah, I definitely recommend stuff like that. How have you changed your business model over the past several months? It seems you've been making reference packs. Yeah, I have. That's kind of been my main focus right now. You know, I used to obviously do a lot of commissioned work, but I'm not doing any of that right now. So I'm trying to take a step back from that side of things and instead focus on making that reference. I find right now that's kind of a more enjoyable way for me to make money. I think I've got to get my love of art back first before I really want to think about doing commissions. Even then, I don't know if I'm going to. I might be more inclined to focus on making personal work and trying to sell that. But yeah, for now, I'm just focused on doing that reference stuff and trying to do releases every week. So every Tuesday, release new reference, which is a lot. You know, it's enough to keep me busy. And yeah, people seem to like it, which is awesome. Never thought I'd work as a photographer, nor do I really consider myself a photographer, but I guess in some strange sort of way I am. Are these photos from a website? Can you find a pack like this for free? Yeah, actually. Yeah, if you go to the link in the description, you can check out this reference. This one is not free, but there is some free reference on there. So you can go and check that out. You can also go check out reference.pictures. I'll go ahead and type in the chat if I can. If I can work my computer anymore. When am I going to do more teaching? Yeah, I'd love to. That's definitely something I'm excited about. That's kind of why I want to learn more right now. That's why I'm in this study phase, is so that I can get some new skills, so I can have some new subjects to teach. Because, you know, I taught landscapes and I love teaching landscapes. But I feel like I've done a pretty thorough job of that. Like, the stuff I've put out there about landscapes is really good. I vouch for it 100%, and I still think it's really good. Like, I don't think I could do much of anything different right now than what I've done. So I'd like some new skills. So ideally, I'd love to be able to get my figures to a point where potentially I could teach how to, you know, figure out figures. But I know I've got a long way to go on that, but I think it is doable. I also want to get back into teaching maybe some oil painting stuff. Do I already feel myself getting better at figure drawing? Yeah, I've been working pretty hard at it for the last maybe couple months, mainly. A little bit before that, earlier last year, but I'm really hitting it quite hard for the last kind of month and a half. So I think in that time I definitely feel like I've gotten a fair bit better. I've got what I think is a long way to go, but at the same time I can also look back and recognize that the stuff I was doing a month or two ago is much worse than what I'm doing now. Which is nice. It's always nice to actually see the progress. It's always a bit discouraging when you put in the work and then you're like, no, I actually like my old stuff better. So that kind of sucks. Noah, you said you're in a study phase. How do you balance study with work? That's a good question. And it's one I've struggled with a lot over the years, and that there was definitely times when I was too focused on creating the work. And it's very easy to do when you go professional with stuff, and you get into this routine of just making the work, which making the work can sometimes be educational. You can definitely learn stuff. But you can also develop a lot of lazy, bad habits by doing that. And I definitely think I'm guilty of doing that. And so for me, it was always essential to get back to the studying part of things. And I definitely did that sometimes, and it worked great, but not as much as I would have liked to. And so now I've got kind of an opportunity where I'm not working professionally with my work. And so I've got the chance to really, really focus on improving my work, which is kind of nice. It's a weird sort of blessing. Do I have a mentorship or any kind of program where I can get some feedback on my paintings? Yeah, kind of. I don't currently have any private mentorship stuff available, but I am kind of trying out starting a little Discord, a little paid Discord server. There's a link to it in the description of this video, and I'm going to try to get that thing going, and ideally, if it goes all right, I'm going to try to do some little paint over streams and stuff like that. I used to, way back in the day, give like critique and paint over for like anybody who sent me stuff, anybody who like emailed me. But I had to stop doing that. Firstly, because so many people were sending me stuff. Like it was just insane amounts of stuff, and I just didn't have the time anymore. And then also just way too many people would just never respond. I'd spend half an hour doing a paint over, writing up a good critique, and send it back to them, and nothing, which is kind of discouraging after a while. So now I think I kind of want to put that energy towards people that are really going to appreciate it, and so that's kind of why I want to try this Discord thing out. I think it might be kind of a fun way to get a little community together and all learn to make some good art together. Oh, the dead horse, the awesome horse. Yeah, that's right. God, I forgot about that. That was years ago. I don't even know if I would have those around. I don't know who has those files. But yeah, that was a good time. Got to do a little art podcast thing with a couple of friends. And that was fun. There's a lot of good memories there. God, I was just a kid at the time too. It's hilarious. I'm mostly, yeah, working from reference, but I am doing a little bit of anatomy study as well. Maybe not as much as I should, but I am regularly like getting out the anatomy books and trying to study that stuff. Because I think it's something you got to do both. You got to do a lot of stuff from reference, but it's also really essential to kind of know what's going on, so you know what to look for and know what you're trying to simplify and stylize and understand some of the forms that are going on. So I am trying to look up some of those. One of my favorite new anatomy books that I got maybe a year or two ago is Anatomy for Sculptors, and it's really good. For painters. I don't know if they should have named it Anatomy for Sculptors because it's just a really good anatomy book. It actually focuses on the 3D form, which I feel like so many of the times I would look at anatomy books and I just wouldn't get what they were trying to do with their like drawings. Like it didn't make sense to me because they were trying to explain with these 2D line drawings these three-dimensional forms, and it just didn't ever click in my head. But I started to see these like 3D representations of what was going on, and suddenly everything started to make a lot more sense. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of learning sculpture and 3D forms and stuff. It's definitely something that improved my my drawing abilities quite a lot. Do I think that all kinds of personalities have their place in modern art world, like competitive spirit, etc.? Yeah, I think so. As far as I know. Yeah, I think there's room for just about anybody somewhere. The art world's a pretty big place these days. I discovered you draw your figure straight without use of gestures. Is that a thing based on practice, or you don't like going through that method? Yeah, this is just kind of something I started doing, and it's kind of working for me, I guess, but I don't know if it's right. So yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend it, because I don't know if it's good or not, but it kind of makes sense to me, and in some ways kind of how I would develop an imaginative drawing is I'd kind of like work up little bits of it and feel like I'd just progress from there, form to form, rather than getting the whole thing in there. So yeah, it's kind of working for me. I don't know if it's right, but then again, I don't know if there is a right way to draw. I'm gonna find out, I guess, but yeah, it's just something that seems to be working for me all right so far, and yeah, we'll find out. I guess my thing with art is that it's really good to just try everything, because you're going to find some ways of teaching that you're going to click with, you're going to find some ways of working and drawing that you're going to make sense with, and certain styles of art that are just going to sit with you right. And so I just think try everything when it comes to art and see where it takes you. Yeah, I make a lot of landscape pieces. So yeah, if you want to hear about landscape painting and drawing, I am the guy. I'm not a figurative artist, despite what I'm drawing today. I'm mostly known for landscapes. Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying about just improving your copying abilities, and there's definitely some of that that you can fall into. I guess it's trying to I think it's trying to understand what you're drawing. It's always being conscious and thinking, and that's a big part of kind of every kind of art study. Like when I teach landscapes, I try to encourage people to really think about what they're drawing. Like think about the perspective, think about the form, think about the lighting, and don't just like mindlessly copy things, because that's when you get into traps and don't really learn as much as you probably should or could be learning. So I think even, especially with figures, that just staying conscious and thinking about the stuff you're doing, thinking about the forms you're drawing is really going to help. And so I find that when I do some imaginative stuff, even though it's still pretty rough these days, I'm able to pull from what I've been doing from the photo studies and use that in my imaginative stuff. Like, I'll draw an arm and I'll realize that I've kind of drawn similar arms, so I sort of kind of know what that's going to look like. And I think you just have to do like a lot of that. You just have to fill up this really complex visual library and then combine it with that sort of abstract anatomy, 3D form knowledge of breaking down the figure. And I think once you combine that sort of stuff, that's when you probably get quite good at drawing from imagination. At least that's how I'm sort of approaching it right now. Oh, thank you. Yeah, those hand and skull references are super useful. I'm glad that I get to put out stuff like that, because looking back on what was available back when I was in art school, like there just wasn't much. Like the resources you could find online were not great, and to be able to get a skull to draw from for whatever it is, $2, is pretty fantastic. I understand what it's like to be an art student. Like I fully remember what that was like, and being able to buy a $200-$300 reproduction skull is not really reasonable. But buying a couple bucks worth of photos to study, yeah. So I love getting to make stuff that is useful for people like that and can actually really help them with their art and their studies. It makes me happy. I'm also amazed at how much good stuff is available for people that want to learn. Like the sheer amount of educational content these days just blows my mind. And if any of you were like around doing art and trying to study it, 15 years ago, God, it was a different world. Like this stuff just was not out there. It was extremely rare. It was rare enough to even find podcasts that interviewed artists or anything. There was maybe one or two, and that was it. And yeah, so you really had to like dive to find art and find art resources and go back and find old books and read through them and try to figure out what they were saying and use that for your knowledge. Whereas nowadays you can just hop on YouTube and find a million awesome artists giving away free streams and showing exactly what they're doing, and it's great. I love that part of things. I love the fact that it's become so much more accessible to learn these skills. I think that's a good thing. Where am I planning my next trip after the pandemic? Oh God, I have no idea. Everywhere. I'm a little tired of being stuck. So yeah, it kind of depends on what season that happens in. Because like if it's still cold, then I'd like to go somewhere warm. Whereas if it's warm in summertime, like I don't know, so many places. Yeah, I just can't even list. Like if I had to go somewhere right now, I'd definitely go somewhere beachy. I'd love to head down to Mexico. It would be awesome. So who knows? Maybe the pandemic will just vanish one day and we'll all get to go back to normal life. So you're talking about my master study thing. Is that after doing these, how do you start to apply it personally? I do talk, I think, about that. Maybe in the landscape one I do. I don't know if I do in the other one. But starting to talk about applied master studies, and I find those to be a nice way to bridge the gap of knowledge between pure studying and pure personal work. That basically you're taking a master study, and then after you're done with the master study, you take whatever you learn from it and you make your own piece. Whether that's you're taking the color palette and you're trying to paint, maybe a similar subject matter, but just different. Or maybe you're completely changing the subject matter, but you really want to stick with those colors and that lighting. Or maybe it's the composition that you learned, or maybe some of the subject that you were studying, whatever it happened to be. But you're taking that and you're not looking at the original master, but you're just using whatever you learned from that master study and starting to create a piece based on that. And I find that to be a really nice exercise when you don't really know how to apply that stuff. But this is kind of why I suggest people do imaginative work regularly, even if they don't feel they're good enough to do imaginative work, because it's not just about the work you're producing, it's also the act of trying to produce something. Even if it's not great, you're kind of teaching yourself what you don't know, which is nice because that means that you know what to study, and it means that all your studies have an outlet where they're not just copying for the sake of copying, because you are trying to improve that imaginative work. And so I find that setting yourself up to do at least some amount of imaginative work is really good practice. Any more YouTube content coming soon? Yeah, I'd like to. I've actually got kind of a 2 or 3 paintings worth of like footage already shot. I just need to narrate it sometime. So I think I might do some longer time lapse stuff of those paintings and put that thing up sometime. But yeah, it'd be good to get some new like finished content like that here on YouTube. I think now that I've got my whole streaming set up and I can record some new stuff, I think I'm going to start trying to do that. Oh, you looked into conceptart.org. I just didn't get it. No art school around where I'm from and all. It took me around 8 to 9 years before I realized I wanted to study this. Yeah, no, I hear you. I look back at my first exposure to art, and I realized that I could have started taking this stuff seriously years before I actually did. Yeah, it took me a while to figure out, like, oh yeah, I think that's what I want to do. But yeah, that place was a gold mine back in the day. It was the only place to find so much stuff on how to be an artist and how to learn this stuff and all the resources. And just, snooping as like various professionals just critiqued each other and shared all their knowledge and wisdom. It was a good time. I wish there was more community stuff like that out there these days, but it seems like a lot of it is just not there anymore. Social media does not do anyone any favors for developing good community. I'm planning to do a short intro video to drawing, and all I want to structure it in 2D design and 3D perspective. Any thoughts on that? Not exactly sure what you're asking. Can you try rephrasing that? Oh yeah, the character and creature challenges back on concept art. That was fun. There's always so much cool stuff in there. I remember I might have done maybe a couple like really bad characters or something, but I know I did some of the like environment of the week things back then. Those are actually some of my first finished environments were for that. It's nice to have that kind of form of accountability. Yeah, you're right on the communities. It's just, I mean, stuff like social media is not encouraging people to be a community. It's encouraging everyone to pursue their own ends. Everyone's on there to try to get famous or more popular, anyways. They're on there to make money, get attention, get noticed. So they're going to say outrageous things. They're going to, do whatever's popular and trendy. They're not going to be on there to help people out and, look out for everyone else or form a community, or it's just not, unless they're going to do it in a public way, it's not something they're going to do. And it's nothing against the people that are on there, because that's just what social media is encouraging. That's the kind of behavior that is rewarded on there, and it's kind of sad. Seems like there's some more like nice bubbles on places like Discord. You get a little bit more of that camaraderie. So that seems to be where things are headed. That's why I wanted to try making my own Discord server. I thought that'd be kind of fun. See if I can try to make a little bubble of the internet where people just want to hang out and make better art and not be full of drama or trying to be popular or anything like that. Where do you see the world of concept art in the next 10 years? Whew, I have no idea. Definitely lots of 3D. I think if you don't know 3D by now, you really need to. If you want to do any concept stuff, I think 3D is pretty essential. But I think a lot of the same principles of concept art will kind of stay the same, in that really good concept artists do have really good ideas and they have really creative solutions to design problems. And I think the tools will change. Like, I think it's definitely going more 3D. But I still think a lot of the principles of, learning good shape language and learning good design is still essential if you want to do that kind of stuff. If you guys have a question, maybe start tagging my name in it, just so I can actually be certain that I see it. There's enough chat going on now that I'm missing some messages, and I don't want to miss your question. So I gotta do some drawing, How difficult is it to get into the entertainment industry, more specifically into the concept environment design? It's hard. I mean, you have to be really, really good. If you are really, really good, you'll probably get work though. So yeah, in that sense, it is quite high. The barrier to entry is pretty tough, just because the competition right now is like super severe. That said, there is a lot of work. Stuff like Netflix is obviously generating a whole lot more work and a lot more need for artists. So in some ways, it's a wonderful time, but yeah, you definitely have to be very, very good. So it's a good reason to work super hard on your skills. Who would you say is your biggest artistic inspiration? It's a good question. It's really hard to say because there's a lot of people that I look to for art. Like there's a lot of amazing artists these days. So yeah, I don't even know if I can answer that these days. I'm looking at a lot of different artists and trying to diversify. So there's no like one artist that I think these days is standing out above the rest. Like there's the stuff I like looking at, which is all sorts of different styles. There's the stuff I like, the stuff I'm best at. So looking at the other landscape artists that are out there and what they're doing. And then there's the stuff that I'm learning right now. So focusing on figures means that I'm looking at other figurative artists and, ones that I like, ones that I don't like, and trying to figure out like, okay, what is it? What are they doing that I'm not doing? Let me try to figure that out. So it's really hard to say. For how long do you learn the basics till you are fully satisfied that you're ready? It really depends on the person and the amount of like time you put in. For me, I think it was something like maybe 5 years, give or take, between when I started taking art seriously and by the time I was professional. That said, I was already fairly good. Like I wasn't anything astounding, but it was pretty good for my age. So it really depends. So, but I think you could probably get anywhere you want to get in maybe 7 years. You can get quite good in that time. And there's some people that, man, they work maybe a couple of years and somehow get fantastic. So it is possible. You just got to put in a lot of time, a lot of energy, and really being conscious and thinking about it too. Because you can do a lot of hours of mindless practice and not really do much with your work. But then you can do really dedicated, concentrated stuff and just improve your skills super fast. When you were trying to learn as much as possible, how many hours did you study per day, or what do you consider the best to improve? I worked a lot. So when I was in art school, maybe, when I spent a year at RISD, that's probably when I worked the most hours. I don't know if I've ever worked more hours than that. And I was probably making art for maybe like 10, 12 hours a day, pretty much every day. Some days even more than that. Like most of my time there, I did nothing but art. Even if I was hanging out with people, we'd be hanging out while making art. And yeah, I think that was great. Like, I don't think I could do that forever, and I don't think I could do it now. I think I value work-life balance a little bit too much now. But, as a young and kind of dumb student, it's great. And I'm glad I did it because the amount that I learned from that is pretty fantastic. But these days I'm more in the maybe 3 hours a day. And I consider that pretty good because I really focus on stuff I need to learn and making sure I'm doing it right. And that seems to work for me now. But I'd suggest if you really want to be serious, I'd say 6 hours a day. I feel like that's pretty reasonable, and you can get a lot of good learning done in 6 hours. Which is probably more than most people want to hear. Most people probably want to hear, like, yeah, you can do an hour a day. And you can do an hour a day, but it depends on how many years you want to do that for, or what level you're shooting for, I guess. Which there's nothing against that. There's nothing wrong with shooting for, doing art as a hobby, for instance. I applaud people that do art as a hobby. I think it's great. There's a lot of stress and annoyance that comes with doing art professionally that you don't have to deal with, and that's pretty cool. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. You just have to really be honest with yourself. Like, okay, what are my actual goals here? What do I really want? And not somebody else's goals, but really your goals, and dig into that and figure out what those are. What kind of stuff did I do back then? Back in art school, it was a lot. So obviously, had different assignments for classes, which involved everything from figure drawing, portrait drawing, plein air painting, still lives. Then I had illustration assignments. Yeah, it was a lot, and the variety was good. It was refreshing to get to do all that. And then I think I even managed to do some personal work in there too. So I was trying to do a lot and trying to kind of steer some of my assignments into stuff that I was interested in. So when possible, trying to make it a little bit fantasy. So it was good. But yeah, it was a lot of art. But hey, I like doing art. I used to feel those that go to concept art school have a better advantage over those who don't. What's your view about this? In some ways, it's a good experience. In some ways, they do have an advantage. But they're also, they're going to come out of school racked with debt. And not all schools are great. Not all teachers are great. And frankly, there's a lot of good information online these days that you do still have access to. So, yeah, I think it's a bit closer than people assume, and it really comes down to the person too. Like, I did fairly well in school, and I enjoyed that experience, but I also learned quite well on my own. And so I think that even though, yeah, I did go to art school, I probably didn't have to. Like, I got on quite well with it, but looking back, I wonder I wonder if I could have had the um, dedication and focus to pursue it on my own. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard. But yeah, it really comes down to how much you can focus on working, putting in the hours, and really studying and being honest with yourself, being honest with what you need to improve, not letting yourself slack off, not letting yourself accept bad drawing, bad painting, but really pushing yourself to excel. And that can be a hard thing to do without the kind of outside pressures that school will give you. What qualifies as studying? Purely drawing, or also looking at other art and such. Yeah, it's not just looking at stuff. That's an essential thing. Like, it's easy to look at art, extremely easy. It's extremely easy to skim through books. It's very hard to actually understand things, because you want to get to a point with your art where you could sit down and show someone else what you're doing. You can instruct whatever it is that you're trying to learn, and that's a pretty high bar to hit, and that's the one you want to be shooting for. So when it comes to anatomy books, you really want to be learning that stuff. Like, all right, I need to be able to learn these forms so well that I could just draw them from my head and explain to someone else who has no idea what they're doing exactly what's happening here. And so yeah, you really need to dive deep, and that's the big thing about studying, is being conscious and being aware and thinking a lot. A lot of people mindlessly study, and because they do that, they don't learn quite as fast as they could. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of thinking as you're studying. Yeah, someday I will draw a horse. Yeah, that's some trauma. It'll take some time to get over, but I actually would like to. Like, that's another thing that I realized. Like, I've kind of been putting off learning how to draw animals for a long time as well. Like, figures are my priority because there's a lot more paintings I want to do that feature figures and all that. But I think once I get a little more comfortable with these, I would actually like to do some serious animal studies. I just want to paint like one good horse so that people will think that I can paint a good horse. What were my parents' views on being an artist? did they get all scared about the artistic myths? They were wonderful. I got really lucky and had parents that were supportive of me being an artist, which in hindsight, like maybe they shouldn't have. Like being an artist it's a risky like career to get into. But yeah, they had a lot of faith in me, and it all worked out. But it is a risky career prospect. But I got really lucky with it. They were wonderful, and yeah, they. I think my dad always wanted to take art classes, and his dad never let him. And so when I came along and I was like, I want to be an artist, I want to take art classes, my dad was just like, all right, you're doing this. So I had very supportive parents. They're wonderful people. Noah, can you show some of your student work? Yeah, if you actually Google, it's an article, How I Became an Artist. It should be on Medium still. You can actually check out all of my stuff, from student to professional. And that'd be a good way to get a good overview of what I did. I've got a new idea that I'm just going to vaguely hint at, but I've got a new idea of how I want to display my work, so that people get an appreciation for kind of my journey as a whole. But that's all I'm going to say for now. It's going to be cool, I think, if I can do it. But I think it's going to be kind of a fun way to look at art. But yeah, some of my student work was fairly good, but there's a lot of it that was just pretty mediocre. It took a while before I really stood out as something different. But I was stubborn and I worked hard, and eventually got there. Whoa, I made these legs like crazy long. I'm gonna shrink those on down. As a student, I'm wondering if I should continue to work out or only focus on art and be better at it. I assume by work out, you mean not work out. Do you mean physical working out, or do you mean like making work? Because you're talking physical health. I think physical health is quite important. And I think it's good and very possible to have balance with that. Like, I'm not gonna lie, you might have to give up some things to have the things you want in life. Like, there's not enough time in the day to have, to do every single thing that you might possibly want to do. You can't, relax for 6 hours every day and also work for 12 hours every day and also sleep for 10 hours every day. And there's not enough time for like literally everything. So some things do have to kind of slide, and they have to let other things take precedence for a while, which I think a lot of people are kind of uncomfortable admitting. But you do have to work hard to get some of the things you really want, and art is definitely one of those things that takes a lot of work. It's not a particularly easy thing to do. It takes a while to get to that level where people are really going to want to look at your work. Yeah, it would be interesting to do something like showing studying horses. I think the thing is that, well, I mean, for instance, right now I'm kind of studying something new. Like, I'm not great at doing these figures, and this is me kind of like learning. This is not just like Noah showing off hour. This is Noah trying to learn how to paint and draw figures. So in some ways that is what's happening, but there's also like some stages of learning that I don't know that I could show off while doing, because some of the early stages, I think you need like the complete concentration of not streaming. Like, you need those kind of quiet times of sitting there and thinking about what you're doing and really analyzing and reading things and constantly referencing and fixing. And yeah, sometimes your brain needs that kind of quiet time. At least mine does. It seems to be how I learn things. So I'm kind of glad that at least I've had a couple months of these figures before streaming them, because that let me get some of those first revelations kind of figured out. And now I need a lot of time of doing this to let some of the other stuff sink in. That was my neck. Any insights regarding pen display drawing? Little useful tips? Nothing in particular. They're kind of straightforward. Yeah, it's all about the pressure sensitivity. I remember when I was in art school and I had an awful digital drawing class. They actually called it digital drawing, not digital painting, which confused me. But it was just a terrible class because the teacher never actually told us how to paint. Like, he didn't tell us how to paint like normal. And it blew my mind. So one day he had to go somewhere or something, and the whole class was just kind of left there to do their own thing. And I just kind of like looked around and was like, guys, do you want to like know how painting works? And I showed them how pressure sensitivity works, and it just like blew their mind. They're like, wait, that you could do that, and like you can change like the opacity and stuff by pressure, and just, yeah, suddenly they could all like paint. And yeah, so once you figure that stuff out, the rest is fairly simple. But for me, actually drawing on the pen display like this is fairly new. I'm kind of a tablet guy. I spent my whole career doing stuff on tablets, so this is a new experience for me. I've done it, a few times here and there, but for the most part, I found that I painted better on tablets, and so the only reason I'm doing the pen display stuff now is that I found out that I really like drawing on it, and that was the difference, is that my career was built on painting. I was a painter and I was fairly good at that, but I didn't draw a lot, and so I think that was where the disconnect came for me, between using a tablet and a pen display. I said 6 hours of studying is a reasonable amount of time for someone who wants to become a professional, but what about pros? How often do you study and for how many hours? These days, I'm more in the 3-hour range, and that's what works for me. That said, I know a lot of people that work more, and I was always jealous of those people. Like, there's a lot of people that they're pros and they still work for, 12 hours a day, and I was just never good at that, and so I just can't do that stuff, not for an extended amount of time, and so I found that the 3 hours is good for me. Sometimes I'll get into like a really good art day and just be in the flow of things and loving what I'm doing. And so maybe on those days I'll push that up to more like 6 hours, but I'd say a good average day for me is about 3 hours, and I think that works for me. Gives me enough time to really practice, really get into some stuff, but kind of lets me do other stuff as well. Have you been to France? Yes, I have been to France a couple times. It's wonderful there. I would love to go back. Maybe the pandemic will end someday and we can all get back to traveling around and seeing each other. Alright, I think I might, yeah, I'll probably call this drawing my last one. So, if you got any last questions, go ahead and shoot them over. I will figure out maybe a streaming schedule sometime. I feel like that might be best. And so I can plan some stuff ahead of time. So yeah, but nothing yet. So stay tuned for that. You can follow me on Instagram. It's probably one of the better places to follow me these days. You can also go to and sign up for my mailing list. That should actually be working on my website again. That is something I managed to get on there today. So my website is semi-functional now. There's no art on there yet, but I'll get there. Pineapples on pizza, yes or no? Probably no. I'll eat it if it's given to me, because I'll eat just about anything on pizza. But I'm probably not going to go out of my way to order it. I think I was the one person in my family growing up that wasn't super into it. And I mean, occasionally I'd have a slice, but yeah. And it's sad because I usually like kind of sweet and savory dishes. So you'd think I would, but I don't know. Something about pizza. I just want pizza to be pizza. I was converted to chicken, like barbecue chicken on pizza. So I was never into that one before. I always thought that was kind of another one of the weird ones. Like, well, why would you get pizza without like pizza sauce? Seems kind of weird. But then I tried it a few times and now I'm kind of into it. How do I plan a good study time or plan? Don't really know. Not sure exactly what you're asking there. I mean, study the stuff you need to learn to make the work that you want to make. So if that's you want to draw really cool figures, then draw really cool figures. And if you want to be able to do that from imagination, then you need to start practicing from imagination and then realizing what it is that you need to get out of your studies. So you need to start getting some anatomy knowledge, the ability to draw those basic forms from imagination, and then you need to build up your visual library of what the different forms and stuff look like in reality. And so, yeah, just build it around that. As much fundamentals as you possibly can, basically. Don't worry too much about the finishing aspects, the pretty aspects of art. That stuff is not nearly as difficult as the fundamental stuff. So focus more on really good fundamentals, really good drawing, really good values, stuff like that. yeah, I think that might do it for us today. Cool. So thanks everybody. This was fun. It was nice getting to do some more studying. Hope you enjoyed, and yeah, I hope you'll come back next time. I'm not sure when I'll do one, but I'm sure I'll do at least one or two next week. It's kind of a fun way for me to get some of my studying in, and it's nice hanging out with some people and talking about art. So thanks again for everything. You guys are great. Thanks for constant questions. Gives me stuff to talk about and do. So yeah, it's good. All right, I'll see you guys.